Hey guys, I wanted to invite you to join me for a live stream I'm doing Friday, May 8th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on youtube.com/christiangeekcentral, where I will be sharing my picks for favorite bang-for-your-buck games that give you a lot of playtime, a lot of fun, for a relatively small amount of money. So I hope you'll come and join me, hang out, and have some fun. Hope to see you then. Thanks. Bye-bye. Well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about what is this called? Amazon Prime's Upload. Episodes 1 and 2, stick around and find out. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com. This is my uncut review of Upload. Eps 1 and 2, the synopsis on IMDb reads, in 2033, people can be uploaded into virtual reality hotels run by tech firms. Cash-strapped Nora lives in Brooklyn and works customer service for the luxurious Lakeview digital afterlife. When LA party boy / coder Nathan's self-driving car crashes, his high-maintenance girlfriend uploads him permanently into Nora's VR world. Upload is created by Greg Daniels, of The Office. That was not IMDb's synopsis. I'm sorry. That was Amazon Prime's synopsis for it. So yeah, this is an Amazon Prime show. I watched the first 2 episodes. These are my thoughts on them. As far as the story, the script, the pacing, the tone, what is this animal? It's basically a sci-fi comedy drama with ongoing mystery elements. It's more serious. It has more on the drama side than I would have thought. And I really appreciate it for that, because typically things that other people find funny, I don't find funny, and so, but I did get some surprising chuckles a few moments here and there, but I'm glad that they were leaning on the seriousness and the drama a lot more than I thought they would. And it also has some video gamer appeal, this whole idea of being uploaded into a digital simulation and making that your afterlife experience, obviously is going to be very conducive to playing around with tropes from video games and just digital entertainment, the digital world, and online type things, avatars, things like that in general. Virtual reality is a major thing that they're kind of toying with also. And there's just tons of comments throughout the story being made thematically on our digital culture today, and they're kind of trying to extrapolate based on some of the things that are true and common now, what could be possible in the future. So it's that kind of story that's making a lot of comments on today's digital technological culture. There was a grating amount for me of product placement. I mean, products mentioned by name, products shown, TV, movies, phone companies, like all kinds of stuff, food of all kinds. It's all over the place. I'm like, oh my gosh, did they have to pay for any of this? Because there's so much product placement. My guess is that it was pretty easy to fund this deal. There is there's some sex scenes that are thrown in that are kind of like close enough to being nudity twice in episode 1 that felt very much put in there just to try to hook people into the pilot based on their most base interests, and it was objectifying to 2 different female cast members, and so that was a real shame. But it doesn't. The second episode didn't have any of that I remember, and so hopefully this isn't going to be the type of show that's going to be leaning on that, going in that direction a lot, but is largely going to be about other things. But human sexuality is a part of it, because we're talking about someone's idea of heaven, and whether or not we can be complete human beings and fulfilled human beings without sex, and so just thematically this thing is very very rich and very relevant to anybody that's thinking about death and the afterlife, or has ever thought about that from time to time, and I think that's pretty much all of us. Nathan is dealing with his new existence in this afterlife while being, and chiefly the fact that there are major shortcomings on a foundational level, because it's run by people. It's being supervised by people. He's being monitored and kind of controlled by staff members that run what is essentially a big online product that he has integrated himself into. He's got a living girlfriend that he's still in touch with, but is not able to be, in physical contact with, obviously. And so we're running into these main problems that stem from the fact that this quote-unquote afterlife is created, imagined, executed, and run by humans. And so I think one of the main takeaway ideas that this movie or this show potentially supports is we don't know how to create our own perfect existence. We don't know how to create our own perfect society. Now, there is a hint in episode 2 that they're maybe not going to be sticking to that philosophically, because there's an idea that is clearly, I don't want to give away spoilers, but it's an idea that we are, as audience members, supposed to be behind and supposed to say, that's a good idea. I want to root for that idea to work. And that is the idea of someone being able to create their own version of their digital afterlife and then give it freely to whoever they want, you know. And so, I mean, I think there's some things that thematically they're doing that I'm like, okay, are you commenting philosophically on the idea of afterlife, on the idea of questions of human purpose and value and destiny and all those kinds of things? Or are you at this point now making some kind of an economical commentary on current economic conditions in the West? So it's kind of hard to tell which ideas they're playing with intentionally and which ideas they're not. But they're all kind of mixed around in there. But it did seem to me that we're supposed to think of this as a good idea in episode 2, that we can create our own afterlife. And if that's the case, then they would not be consistently saying we don't know how to create our own perfect world. You know, I'll get to the themes more in a second because there's just a ton that they're playing with. Let's see here. It's very character focused. And there are lots of parallels both in his digital experience and with what's going on in the real world that are parallel to experiences that we have, things that we struggle with, things that we think about, and the characters are right in the midst of those things and dealing with those things. And so it's about them dealing with these issues that I think, you know, at least there are parallels that we in our lives can say, yeah, I empathize with that struggle, with that frustration, with that concern, you know. And so it's pretty character focused, even as it is also a very conceptual show. Nora is, Nathan, first off, in the digital world is, for example, trying to find reasons to keep on living. I mean, during the pilot, you know, he's really quickly seeing the flaws in this quote-unquote afterlife and is, you know, struggling to not just kind of like end it for himself, you know, and actually go into some kind of real death or something, you know. And so he's having to figure out how to find a reason to keep living. Nora, who is the staff member that's kind of there to assist him, that's her job, you know, she is trying to take care of her ailing father back in the real world, you know. And after 2 episodes, I cared about these characters enough to want to see the rest of their stories play out, or at least watch more episodes until I lose interest in their character stories. So they definitely have my interest at this point. I also want to see the rest of the mystery revealed. There is a mystery surrounding the circumstances of Nathan's death. His death is apparently not what it seemed to be, or the cause is not what it appeared to be, and this is a major plot line. They touch on this. It's not the major focus of each episode. Each episode kind of has its own theme, its own focus, but so far in the pilot and in the second episode, this is the major through line plot about this mystery of like what really happened regarding the circumstances of his death. And so I'm interested in seeing, you know, that all play out. As far as the cast goes, Robbie Amell may look familiar to you, but more because of who he's related to. His brother, I believe it's his brother, is Stephen Amell of Arrow. And Robbie works well in this role. Even in some heavy emotional scenes, I've seen him in 1 or 2 other things, and he just seemed like kind of like a pretty boy jock type actor that really didn't have like really strong acting chops. But this is the best acting I think I've seen from him, the most emotionally convincing acting that I've seen from him. They're not asking a lot, but what they do ask for, I feel like he executes on, you know, well enough for me to stay connected to his story and to his character, you know, which is really valuable to me. Let's see, everyone else is fine. There's not a wide spectrum in the performance requirements and the emotional ranges and stuff. The actors are all kind of dealing mostly with emotions that you and I are experiencing every day, not like severe ups or severe downs or subtleties and stuff like that. There's a child actor in the second episode that wasn't what I would like, but, you know, I've learned to put up with that to some degree, and I think that, you know, I tend to lose patience with the quality of child actor performances more than other people do, so you don't have to... You can give that take that with a grain of salt, as they say. Let's see here. As far as the visuals and the stunts, so there's not really stunts, but there are plenty of visual effects, lots of digital visual effects, even in the real world, and they all show signs of a limited budget, but for me, that's fine for a comedy drama type thing. I've just kind of come to accept that when you're doing like a comedy, when you see movies like comedies that are spoofing action movies, they clearly don't have the full-blown budget of an action movie. And so I've lived with comedy movies that are playing with sci-fi or action elements and seen the budget in those movies. I've just gotten used to that, and so my expectations dialed down, especially when it comes to the stuff they do in the digital world, which you would, I can just rationalize, well, yeah, of course it looks, fake and cheap or whatever. It's a digital simulation, so as far as themes go, tons of themes that they're playing with here, addressing deep issues of death, as I said before, the purpose of life, the nature of heaven. There is a character who holds on to the seemingly traditional and outmoded view of an actual afterlife that's not created digitally by human beings, but that we actually do move on to when we die. And, someone close to him says, oh, you actually believe in that old stupid stuff or whatever, and he says, it doesn't make sense, but it's how I feel. And so I think as an audience, we're meant to sympathize with him. They show us repeatedly all the problems and shortcomings of this digital afterlife, and so I think as audience members, we're meant to sympathize and see his view as a good one. And of course, I want to affirm the idea of the existence of an afterlife, but he says, regarding his beliefs in the afterlife, it doesn't make sense, but it's how I feel. Now, I can't speak to all the different worldviews that are available out there to choose from regarding, the afterlife, but as far as Christian belief, the Apostle Paul makes it clear that, listen, if Jesus wasn't raised, that we're all fooling ourselves, we're pathetic people, but Jesus was raised, and so there's always this appeal to logic and reason throughout the New Testament and the Old Testament, and so the Christian faith, as it is defined and outlined in the Bible, is not one of just following feelings and believing things that don't make sense, but are appealing emotionally in some way, So I think, we believe because it makes sense to believe. We have good reasons to believe. So anyway, but I thought that was a noteworthy moment, that it does seem to still be hanging on to and perpetuating a sort of pop spirituality that we're supposed to think well of, but is ultimately empty, based on emotions, based on feeling, based on very subjective things, There was also this idea of imperfection being good, that there's when a character is trying to convince another character to basically keep going, even though they're really frustrated with life, really frustrated with their circumstances, they say to this character in a big monologue that is clearly supposed to be okay, this is like the preachy moment where the writer is saying something that really he thinks the audience should listen to and connect with, and that is that life isn't perfect, but that's what makes it beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And I'm no. All the crap in life does not make it beautiful. That sounds like the words of someone who is struggling to settle. Because they can't imagine or see anything concrete that is better than this life, and so they're just trying to make good and talk up the life that they're stuck with, But the truth is that the beauty, any beauty that might come out of imperfection, is because God is going to use it in some way for something that is beautiful and purposeful down the road. But I don't think families being broken and shattered by infidelity and selfishness and stuff, I don't think that makes life more beautiful. And so I think expressing those kinds of things about life, I think for a moment it can kind of sound good, and in the right setting and with the right music playing in the background and with the right actor's performance, it can kind of feel like something that we connect with. But when you really look at it, no, it doesn't make sense. The brokenness of this world is not beautiful. The amazing thing about God is that he can take our free, broken, screwed up choices and he can make something beautiful out of them. But the brokenness itself is not beautiful. It is not something that we should be content to just kind of settle with. Let's see here. What else? There's some questions brought up briefly about the about age in the afterlife. There's a child in this environment who is remaining his same age instead of advancing in age as years pass by. And so I think there's questions that people might have, that Christians have had over the years, about like, well, what about babies that die? Are they babies in forever and stuff like that? And there's some really thoughtful, reasonable responses to all those kinds of things. But the idea that this child would be stuck as a child makes sense in sorry, did I say that? Be stuck in a child? Be stuck as a child. I don't know what I just said. Anyway, it's uncut. We got to keep going. But the fact that, this child would be stuck as a child forever makes sense in this flawed, broken, created by humans version of the afterlife, There's also a psychologist that tells one character that in this new environment, you have to make your own meaning. And that certainly falls in line with the subjective, relativistic, pervading philosophy of today. You have to make your own meaning. We are our own God in a sense, and we have to create our own meaning and purpose and stuff in life, So, it's definitely that philosophy seems to be kind of like undergirding some of the writing and creation of the series. So if you were a time traveler, since I have no idea what your tastes are in TV shows, I would go back in time and say, Peter, watch this one. You already have Amazon Prime. Don't go out of your way or pay extra money or anything like that, but be ready to watch in your peripheral vision for a couple of scenes, where they objectify women in the first episode. It's also, in terms of the rest of its quality and engagement for you, maybe something that you could do while folding laundry or playing a video game or something. It's maybe won't demand your full attention. It's not that kind of quality. But the themes and the characters will keep you engaged, and even some of the humor now and then. So worth checking out for you. This one does not have an MPAA rating, but I would describe it as R-ish for its degree of F-bombs. There's lots of F-bombs. And PG-13-ish for the degree of nudity in there, which is like all but actual nudity. Like you're not technically seeing nipples, but they're trying to show you everything but, So they're really clearly trying to see what they can get away with. It's that kind of thing. So just so you know that going in. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to get yours in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that notification bell if you want to stay connected. You can get info about becoming a Spirit Blade Insider, which supports this kind of content, and then we'll also get you some free rewards over at patreon.com/SpiritBladeProductions. Then, of course, I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.
Burn, ungodly filth!